there's obviously always brand new news coming out of Elon Musk's DOGE department, whether they are trying to clean up the roles of the IRS or whether they are trying to scale down, maybe get rid of some people who are not necessary right now and cut the budgets, of course. And right now I'm looking at this, Will. There's news coming out, and people maybe saw it yesterday, that another judge has gotten involved in the DOGE situation.
This is another one of those cases where a union group tried to block the firing of federal employees. And remember, a lot of these are probationary employment. They aren't vested as full employees yet. And the union brought forward this complaint saying, hey, you got to put an end to this, court. You can't let them just fire these bureaucrats. And this judge, Judge Christopher Cooper from the district court in D.C., decided to not block the firing of employees or the spending freezes that are happening, saying that, once again, not the right forum for this, that they didn't have standing to bring this. And so, therefore, he was not going to temporarily block the firing of federal employees. He did say, you should probably go through the Federal Labor Relations Authority. He wasn't necessarily on the side of DOGE and the Trump presidency, right, but following the law, saying this isn't the right place to do this. You have other avenues that these employees could take. It's very similar to some of the other decisions we've seen, even the one out of Judge Chutkan. The unlikely Judge Chutkan. She also said she was concerned about it, but that, once again, they didn't have standing to bring it and therefore wouldn't block it.
So we have seen a number of these victories which reflect the fact that the Trump lawyers are actually well prepared this time for the left's lawfare. And so if you go back to 2017, the Trump administration had some difficulty first with Jeff Sessions as Attorney General, who I think was unprepared. And then he decided to recuse himself. But Pam Bondi, the Department of Justice lawyers, the lawyers for Donald Trump are prepared to do combat. And if you look at the specific decision by Judge Cooper, it's important to keep in mind that the judge has declined to block Trump's effort to shrink the federal workforce. That is something Donald Trump was elected to do. And the failure of Donald Trump to fulfill his mission, arguably, would be an affront to democracy. And I think the judge read the Constitution properly.
These cases where they decided to file, and obviously these are in D.C. There was also the one from Judge Chutkan, so it makes sense because it is the federal government. But, there have also been cases filed in Rhode Island, New York. A lot of times we know that the plaintiff will find a forum shopping is what it's referred to, where or jurisdiction shopping, where they will find what they think are going to be favorable judges. And you have to admit that the DC Circuit, it has taken the place of the Ninth Circuit. We used to always think of the Ninth Circuit as being the most liberal judicial circuit when it comes to the judges that are on the bench there. DC definitely has taken that place because really of some of the appointments of President Trump during his first administration. It's still a very liberal-leaning court out there in the West, but the fact that we've now seen two decisions out of the DC Circuit Court, District Court, is amazing that we're not seeing the activist judge that we would almost assume would come out of these districts.
These judges actually can read the Constitution. And if you look at Article 2 of the United States Constitution, it vests the president with the entire executive power. And so the power is vested in President Trump rather than in a lifetime bureaucracy. Don't get me wrong, federal employees, they have rights. This particular judge said that these workers maybe can appeal their case to the Federal Labor Relations Authority. but that's their sole remedy as he reads the Constitution. I think the judge is precisely correct, and I think this has surprised, if you will, many individuals on the left wing of government, and the Democrats in particular. And so many Democrats in Congress are reduced to providing singing lessons to the American people.
It just seems to me to be a direct reflection of who these people are, that when DOGE comes in and either is pointing things out to make cuts, or even to the ones where DOGE will be, it's a direct reflection on how they feel about the money, meaning it's their money. And so it's really, though, our money, is it not?
Well, of course, this is a lot of our taxpayer dollars doing the work.
And in reality, Professor Hutchison, that is the biggest problem with the bureaucracy and the way the federal grant program has ballooned over decades, is that those within the government aren't really seeing themselves as accountable to the American people and not really taking good stewardship of the American people's tax dollars.
I think that's precisely correct. And indeed, many people in the federal bureaucracy are simply using the federal government to launder taxpayer money to their friends and, if you will, their relatives who are running many left-wing organizations. So, for instance, there are published reports that U.S. aid funding has gone to George Soros' foundations so that he can pose a threat to democracy in Western Europe. This is ridiculous.
As we look through this, you're starting to see more and more judges that we've seen or have heard about in the past because they were maybe appointed by a Democrat, or maybe their record has not been what people that support President Trump would prefer. But they're saying, we don't even have jurisdiction here. I can't block it. I'm a judge. I'm not going to go outside the bounds of my judicial authority. And this one even said, try the Federal Labor Relations Authority. Maybe that's where you should start if you want to try to get this blocked. But as of now, they're gone. Yeah.
You know, when you're like, I need to speak to someone else in another department, and then they got to transfer you. That's what it feels like when you're like, no, I've already been transferred. And then all of a sudden you're back in the hold music. And
right.
It's doom, doom, dun, dum, dum,
That's
and
very
it's back.
good hold music, by the way.
Well, I know it well.
You're calling a lot of customer support.
I've got a lot of issues. Okay, things are breaking all the time.